Welcome to the Fantasy Syndicate Podcast with your hosts, Joshua Poniatowski and Alex Taylor. Let's talk football.
Hello, and welcome to the Fantasy Syndicate Podcast. My name is Josh Poniatowski. With me, Alex Taylor.
What up?
It is April 8th, Tuesday. Today, we are going to be talking about Dynasty buy lows, sell highs, the players that you need to be looking at that are either overvalued or undervalued. But before we jump into that, I just have kind of a general rule of Dynasty that I wanted to throw out to the universe and see if you feel the same way about this. I am a firm believer, there's some small exceptions, but I am a firm believer that in Dynasty, you should never buy a running back during the offseason. Ever.
Oh, okay.
Some exceptions, Bijan, Gibbs, right? First round, top 2 picks. I would say yes, maybe Alshon, but outside of some of the major ones, especially with this year's draft class, I just feel like it's so risky to do it this early. And free agency market, players getting picked up, those types of things. So, what are your thoughts and feelings on that kind of hard and fast rule?
Running backs drop off the quickest of any position, so it makes sense to kind of downplay them in dynasty as opposed to redraft. But there's always, King Henry's still doing it for however many years he's been going, so everyone's always looking for that cliff. It just doesn't always happen.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I'm glad we're on the same page on that. All right, we're going to roll into the sell players first. Alex is going to get it started off. What you got for us? Sell first, Alex.
Well, talking about selling RBs in Dynasty, I'm going to start with your boy Kenneth Walker, KW3. Dynasty rankings have him sitting at about RB13, RB10 if we're doing just vets only. But honestly, it just feels too high to me. He's never actually even hit those marks in any season. In fact, his seasons have continuously gotten worse since his rookie year. He finishes RB16 as a rookie, and then RB19 the next year, and then 28 last year, given he was injured a lot and whatnot last year, so kind of whatever. But also, so he's never played a full season in his career. His rushing efficiency has also dropped every year. He went from 4.6 yards per carry down to 4.1 and 3.7. His rushing touchdowns have gone down every year, going from 9 to 8 to 7. The regression on his run game is just obvious.
Yeah, so obviously the downward trend is not great. You don't like to see a running back regress year after year. But for me, I'm going to have to disagree with you. I think respectfully, of course, I think running back 10 is somewhat reasonable. He's only 24 years old, okay? So he should have at least another 1 year of strong production. And even including the games that he got injured in, so like mid-game, he averaged at least 14 points per game, which lands him about that running back 14 range, which is about that range. And also, being 24 years old, he's going to be going into his prime of his career for running back, which is supposed to be 25. So I just think he fits that criteria where it's a little too early. Good area.
But Seattle is also a really big question mark going in next year. I mean, Geno's gone, DK's gone. They brought in Darnold. I like Darnold, sure. He was kind of like a Cinderella story last year, so it was fun to root for. I don't know if I have a ton of confidence in that offense going forward. Plus, he's got Charbonnet nipping at his heels. And Zach proved he could handle the workload in the games that KW3 missed time last year, so.
Yeah, no, I get that. The offensive situation is kind of a mess. But here's the deal. If you own Kenneth Walker in Dynasty, there is absolutely zero reason that you should not own Charbonnet as well. And when you look at it, if you were to combine their points together, right? So you own Kenneth Walker, you own Charbonnet, they're one player. I look at them as one unit. But from last year, together, they totaled 253 points in 2024, which is running back 7 territory. And in 2023, a year before that, 208 points, putting them at running back 11. So I look at them as one unit.
Yeah, but it's going to be one of those where you always picking the wrong one, or kind of, you're always going to get frustrated. Someone's going to blow up on your bench, and you're going to be like, God, and you put him in, and then you get bamboozled. But I get that. I just think, here's the deal. Like, if you have Walker in Dynasty, I just think you should maybe trade him now while he's still kind of like this young, promising RB, because it happens very quickly before they're no longer young and promising. They're old and promising. And at that point, you're like, what am I doing here? So,
Yeah,
Sell high while people still believe, you know?
I could see that. Yeah, I mean, if he has another down year of expectations coming up on his contract year, like definitely not be great, especially landing spot if they don't decide to roll with him again. So totally get that. But we're gonna be moving on to my guy. This is actually a rookie quarterback, Drake May.
Was a
I
rookie
can't
quarterback. Now he's officially
was excuse
sophomore.
me,
Yeah.
sophomore, consider sophomore, was a rookie quarterback, but his value right now is gross. It's like off the charts. He's ranked right now as QB9 in Dynasty, but if you look at like the points ranges based off the community, he is really sitting at QB6 range, and I just don't understand the hype there. Like I don't get it.
You can't just be like, oh, he's 9, but like if you look at the points, it's almost 6. I think you're kind of
It
overinflating him
is.
there.
No,
You're
look at
overinflating
it,
him a
I'm
little bit
telling you.
there. You're kind of
No
like, you know,
chance.
either way, I will agree. Even QB9, I think feels a little high for him. I think he's more of like a QB 12 or 13 kind of situation. I think what he does have going for him is like the unknown. Like most people would agree, the Patriots had arguably the worst collection of skill players last season. They did add Diggs this year. You know, I know you're kind of whatever poo-poo on Diggs. He's, you know, coming off injury. But they'll also probably grab another weapon in the draft. They got pick 4. This could be like a Travis Hunter situation. I don't know. So I think overall, just Drake has a lot of that like upside right now. But I do think 9 seems high.
All right, so listen, I get that. Yeah, Patriots, they were a mess last year. It appeared to be in a mess anyway. No offensive weapons. Happened to CJ Stroud as well in that situation. But he averaged 16.8 fantasy points per game. So looking at the numbers, sitting at around QB 17 last year. He put up 224 passing yards per game with 15 touchdowns, 10 interceptions in 10 games. He's essentially Jameis Winston, but he can run the ball a little bit. And I'm worried about two major
Play
things
it all
about
like Jameis Winston.
him. Yeah. So the
Hey, all
first thing
right,
I'm
hey,
worried
what
about,
do you got?
yeah, first thing I'm worried about is Mike McMillan. So I'm not saying he is like the worst coach ever, but people just, and I've spoken about this before, get so hyped about him because of the time that he spent in New England with the Brady era. And Brady just looked good with everyone. So it didn't matter who was there,
True.
he made them look good. So in his stints with the Broncos, the Rams, and the Raiders, I looked at all his total points during those teams. He averaged 21st out of 32 teams in points scored and 18th in total yards. So, you know, bottom half of a 32 man league, even though the 18th was just bottom half. So I'm not buying the quarterback narrative whisper or anything like that.
I
Just
mean,
not
his
buying.
track record's pretty rough, and even I would say even just the whole Bill Belichick coaching tree has just historically not panned out. Although technically, you know, Mike Vrabel coming in is not, you know, he played for him and it coached under him, so it's like maybe this will finally be
It
the
doesn't
guy,
count.
the exception or something. I don't know. We'll
Yeah,
see.
yeah. And the other thing was his sack rate, which I know it seems like a strange stat to focus on, but the sack rate usually correlates with his throwing motion and his decision making. And Next Gen Stats had his release time at 2.91 seconds, which for quarterbacks is slow. That's like the slow range. It puts him in company of Daniel Jones, great company, as well as your boy Anthony Richardson. And he was sacked 34 of his 33 and 38 dropbacks, which is 10% and worse in the league. So, yeah.
Sack rate, it's almost like one of those when people try to define like macroeconomics. Like there's so many different
Could be
variables
a
that could
lot.
possibly, you know, what was the called play? Was it a long developing route? What was the
Yeah.
O line doing? Did he have to scramble? Did he have to move? But yeah, I mean, it's a little tough. I mean, those are not good numbers. Yeah, I mean, who else was that got like a 10% sack rate rookie year?
Yeah. And while they weren't great numbers, Drake May was supposed to be able to run from sacks, right? So, really, that number should have been lower because he's able to move. But over the last 20 years, this is why it's a big deal because history tells us so. Alex Smith, Tim Tebow, Blake Bortles, Marcus Mariota, Josh Rosen, Bryce Young, and Caleb Williams. Obviously, Bryce Young is looking better. Caleb is still an unknown at this point, even though he looks solid. But overall, that's not like great company to be sitting in as a rookie. You know, I think this is the reason
T-
why.
I mean, Tebow won a playoff game. Blake Bortles went to a conference championship
Yeah,
game.
we're talking short stints, though. You know. unexciting fantasy players. Right?
Alex Smith had a long career in the NFL. He did all right.
But
no, it's definitely red flag. Definitely red flag.
Yeah, and I mean, even if you believe in Drake May, right? Like, even if he's like, all right, I'm a Drake May truther, you're telling me he should be valued the same as Mahomes, which he is, Caleb Williams, right? Which I still think Caleb's better. Justin Herbert, who's potentially going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback. C.J. Stroud and Bo Nix, like he has proven the absolute least out of everyone in that I named, and we're just chasing the rushing upside at that point. So,
yeah, I mean, I'd say his compared to all those guys, his value is a little inflated, a little boosted up by, like I said, it's just the allure of possible new weapons coming in. But
yeah, I mean, I think you need to sell him. Like if I own Drake May, I would absolutely be fielding offers. I don't think he's worth QB6 price tag to QB9, even though said I'm tweaking a little bit. And I don't see him cracking the top 5 QBs in Dynasty, right? Like think about it. Do we think he's going to break the top 5 QBs in Dynasty in the next 3 to 5 years? And if your answer is no, selling him this peak right now is really going to be worth that value. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would overall agree with that. And then I'll kind of transition us into my next sell high, who you just mentioned in that list. Very comparable to him is going to be C.J. Stroud, currently ranked at QB 10 in Dynasty format. But honestly, I feel like the shine kind of started to wash away a little bit last year. He's one of the bigger disappointments in fantasy football last season. I think youth is really the only thing that's kind of kept him ranked this high as of now.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm going to have to disagree with you from a value perspective, respectfully. And can I get a quick shout out? I'm not going to throw it in right here, but post-production, I'll throw it in on the screen here. If you followed us on Twitter,
I'm just going to randomly point and hit it.
I'll throw it in there. A year ago, I threw up on Twitter, I was like, C.J. Stroud's value is QB3 in Dynasty. At that time, he was behind Mahomes and Allen, and that was it. And I was saying, sell this man. Similar to what I just said about Drake. So I'm going to give myself a shout out there. I'll stop.
Yeah, I mean, to me, so you were calling him down last year, but now I'm calling him down this year, and you're saying he's going up this year. But I'm just looking at the fact, he finished. Yeah. You're just like as a value play. I get it. I mean, QB 10 isn't that great of value. I mean, that's still pretty expensive.
It's not great.
In his 2 years, he got QB finishes of QB 11 and then 18 on the books, and his situation has only gotten worse. Diggs is gone. I know you kind of hated the man, but he's pretty solid for them before he got hurt.
He was great for 7 months.
Tank Dell is in recovery. We got to see what happens there. They also traded away Laramie Tunsil to the Commies. So now, I mean, basically all they got left is Nico, who's a beast for sure, and Mixon, who also had a great year. But he is going to be 29 at the start of the season, so who knows?
Yeah, I mean that's why I think QB 10 range is like a fair spot for him, right? He's only 23. He's proven he can be a starting quarterback, and when I'm looking at it from the perspective, like C.J. Stroud is talented. He should have a long career ahead of him. Like, yes, his fantasy production is a question mark, but you can't question his talent as an NFL quarterback,
Yeah, I mean, he's solidified his job for a while, just based off of how great that rookie year was. I mean, he's gonna be locked in there for a bit. We'll see. But I mean, in year 2, he attempted more passes, but he still finished with fewer yards, fewer touchdowns, more interceptions, more sacks. I almost said snacks there. And let's not forget, he didn't have a top 10 QB weekly finish after week 4 last year. He had week 1 and week 4, and this was only weekly top 10s all year last season.
It's kind of interesting that you mentioned week 1 and week 4, because I'm going to dig into the data a little bit, and that is a Stephon Diggs pun. I believe that works. So Nico got hurt in week 5. All right. Diggs got hurt in week 7. Tank Dell also dealt with injuries through the year. So through the first 6 weeks of the season, CJ was QB 10, right? We're that value on pace to a similar 2024 campaign. Houston was passing the ball at a 60% rate at that point and top 10 in the league. The moment those two weapons went down, the team just shifted to a run-heavy attack. That's just my perspective on that.
But that run heavy, they kind of settled into that even once Nico came back. I mean, it was kind of a little bit too late. Mixon was kind of just like the face of that offense down the stretch.
I know, I agree. Yeah, and then I think that's what happened was that he became Joe Mixon was the stud for 7 weeks. Nico didn't come back until I think it was week 13 or 14. Mixon finished as running back two. Now Houston just fired their OC, right? Because they didn't want that running first identity. They brought in Nick Haley. We love the McVay tree, right? Talking about Belichick tree like being boo boo. We love the McVay tree from a fantasy perspective. So we got that.
But I'm also gonna be, like I said, I'm also gonna be worried about them gutting their offensive line, trading away Laramie Tunsil, which made no sense. I mean, Stroud's pressure rate was already the highest in the league, and the sack rate was third. And then all of a sudden, they just make it worse for kind of no reason. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I agree. I have no argument on that. I don't know what they're doing from an offensive line perspective, but I'm betting on CJ. I'm betting on the talent, and maybe it won't look good next year, but future.
Like I said, I just think personally he's a little overvalued. I think his fantasy ceiling is a little bit capped. He doesn't really run as much as a lot of the younger guys are doing these days. He runs like a little bit when he really needs to, but it's not really part of his game. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I'd probably rather take like a Bo Nix or even Caleb Williams now that he's in that Ben Johnson's offense, or even like a proven vet, Baker, Kyler. If I just want to go for more of a win now kind of situation.
Yeah, I suppose you're win now. Absolutely. Yeah, the rushing upside without a doubt. Like you're gonna in order for CJ to be a top five quarterback, he's gonna have to throw for 35 to 40 touchdowns, no questions asked. And he's gonna have years where he finishes as QB 15, QB 18. But I do think every once in a while he'll pull those 35, 40-yard seasons off, touchdown seasons. Maybe it won't be the next year or two. And that's that dynasty waiting game to play with CJ, but maybe you get him for cheaper later if that's what you're looking at, right? This is a value now, and then you can pick him up later for that. So it's potential. I
just
see
think
it.
the way things are looking in 2025,
Yeah.
I'm not really high on him, but I can see how maybe in the future it could work out for him.
That's a fair take, though. I would agree on that. So I'm moving to my sell high, and I like to do stuff differently all the time, so I'm just gonna do that as always. So instead of picking a player, I'm gonna pick a pick actually. So I am gonna say that the first round pick, the 101, sell it now because the value you're gonna be getting is unheard of. It's like a psychological thing, right? For the 101. Everybody's, all in on Ashton Genty. He's running back 3. He hasn't even seen a snap in the NFL yet. Like, his value is off the charts. This is insane.
I just think sometimes you got a sure thing. You just need to lock it in, take it. Don't get cute with it. I mean, if someone offers you something stupid, sure, but like, it's the 101. Like, it's kind of also fun. It's also just psychologically just fun to have the 101.
It is fun. I agree, it's fun. But let's we'll talk about value here. So, taking out the psychological part, just looking at the value. Alshon, I think is gonna be the go. But if you tear down to the 102, 103, we're gonna go over some data here about the stats. But these are some of the I still think you do it, and these are some of the trades that have gone down. I pulled up kind of a trade system where it goes through all the recent trades. Listen to these ridiculous trades. So the 101 for the 103 and 2 future firsts, the 101 and the 205 for CJ Stroud and Nico, the 101 for James Cook and the 102. I just feel like the value is there from that perspective.
Obviously, some people are just going to make some bad trades. I mean,
Yes.
James Cook 102 for 101. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, all of those are pretty crazy. I mean, there's going to be some bad leagues out there with some tacos. You don't even know what's going on. Like, I don't think you can read into too much on some of these.
Yeah. So, and the reason why I don't think it's a big deal to tear down is because 2022, 3 picks for Brees Hall, number 1, Drake London, Kenneth Walker. 2023, Bijan, Jameer, JSN. 2024, Marvin Harrison Jr., Neighbors, the Doomsday. I think,
Marvin Harrison was kind of a letdown. I'll give you that. But I mean, Brees Hall was a stud. He kind of wavered in his 3rd year, but like after years 1 and 2, nobody was doubting that. Who was the other one? Oh, Bijan. I mean, you got Gibbs too. Gibbs did really great. But nobody would say, I mean, those two both compared to JSN at 3. I mean, JSN came on hot a little bit this year, but nobody was, valuing him anywhere close to Bijan and Gibbs. So I just think there's still value there.
So I'm gonna do what I did before about the tweet. I'm gonna put it on the screen, but Alex can see the chart if you scroll down a little bit. But this is a chart from Draft Shark U, which I thought was super interesting. It only looks at data through 2022, and it shows us 10 years of data though. And there's a lot going on here, but if you look at the top left-hand corner, you can see the correlation that shows between ADP of a player at the time that they were drafted, right? So like the value that they had when they were drafted, and then a year later going through the same drafts. For the picks, 101 to 103, the standard deviation is only 0.03 over 10 years, which means players hold values in those 103, like 101, 102, 103 consistently. So obviously, I thought this was cool. Also, as you look lower down the picks, like it's you just see how much of a fall off there is. But also, like the 107 to 112 are kind of comparable, right? So, like maybe you could make a deal in there from a value perspective. I'm just saying it's just interesting to look at from that same deviation standpoint. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you got a case for some lower ones, but it also clearly shows like the 101 is just historically has the best hit rate, and that's why it's valued the way it is.
Yeah, trade it away. I'm still saying trade it away. Try to get to 102, 103. And if there's 9 people in your league, you got to have a taco. Everybody has a taco.
Yeah.
Everybody has a person that you can, and you're thinking of yours right now. Don't say it out loud. But you're always zero because you always got a guy that would be willing to trade the 101. So
and there's especially if you're like relatively new or the league's new to like Dynasty or something like that. There's always like one or two guys who just can't mentally grasp the process of valuations in a Dynasty setting. And you just hope you're advantageous for that compared to one of your league mates, and then you're like, no, I need to veto that. And then vetoes are questionable, but
and we all make somewhat reasonable trades at one point. I think when I first entered the Dynasty League with you, I would say I made a questionable trade, right? I mean, from a cap space perspective, I was learning. I realized the situation, right? So it comes with that. It was fun. I'd say you got the best of me on that situation, but that's okay.
And you've got me back in some
I
response.
agree. But yeah. But all right, so we're gonna transition over to the buy segment. This is my more favorite one. Obviously, you want to get value from players you're selling, but buying and hitting when you buy is just always a good feeling. Alex, just like last one, start us off. Who you got?
I mean, y'all know I had to sneak at least one homer into this episode. So I think in a Dynasty format, it has the best way to capitalize on Jalen McMillan right now. I think right now his stock took a hit when we re-signed Chris Godwin. So McMillan's his 2025 season outlook is capped a little bit to his role as a wide receiver 3. That's why he's all the way down to the wide receiver 45 in the rankings. But I think there's really good value there.
And you're not going to believe this, but another tweet, I tweeted about Jalen McMillan. This was after week 1. Anytime a day 3 pick gets lined up next to 2 veterans and sees an 80% snap count, and makes a catch in week 1, like you got to pay attention to that. So I tweeted, I'm going to post it up again. This was September 8th, 2024. It feels good, full circle right now.
Look at you. I didn't tell you all about him in the preseason.
You did. Look, I was looking for it.
His season last year took a little while to kind of get a groove. He had a nice week 1, and they kind of fizzled out there for a little bit. It was like, oh, maybe he's not even going to be relevant. But then down the stretch, this kid really balled out and just was a beast for the weeks 14 to 18. So here's a little fun fact for you, Josh. Only twice in NFL history has a rookie wide receiver had 50 receiving yards or more and a touchdown for 5 straight games. One of them was first ballot Hall of Famer Randy Moss, and the other, my boy Jalen McMillan.
That's an insane stat. Like that's ridiculous. I was high-ish on McMillan, but not as high as I am now based off Utah. So. Yeah.
I mean, from weeks 14 to 18, he was wide receiver 7 over those 5 weeks. Ahead of guys like Puka, Amon-Ra, Higgins, even with that monster playoff game, still higher than him. London, The Bucs offense, we did lose our offensive coordinator again, Liam Cohen, but I don't see any really signs of it slowing down anytime soon. Baker's going to bake, baby.
Yeah. And I mean, I mentioned it, like, you're definitely changing my opinion. The 450 yards for me was worrisome, but I agree. This is like a waiting game for him, especially with two veterans in front of him. He's a proven day one, talent. He started week one, so I'm in on this. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's only wide receiver 3 in the team for now, so you got to chill, got to hang out for a little bit. But I mean,
yeah.
I'm not hoping for any injuries because I'm a Bucs fan. But like, if any injury were to happen, obviously he would quickly ascend into really peak value there. So I think he's poised up to step up over time.
Yeah, I was looking at his value. I think it's right around like a second round pick ish to deal. So I mean, and maybe some guys aren't high on him. They see the 450 yards and like me, I was like, that's not a huge thing. But yeah, I think that's a solid. I'd much rather have the player than the pick. That's also a little Confucius say. I much rather have the player than the pick. I'm gonna get that on the coffee mug. But all right. Going into my buy one, it's Lad McConkey, another wide receiver, another person that I just feel like is being disrespected in the fantasy community. Right now, he's sitting at wide receiver 12. Honestly, that's just insane. I'm not saying he's going to be cheap. Obviously, we all know Lad's a stud, but I think he's being grossly undervalued compared to the rookie season he just had and some other, stats and data I'm not going to give you.
I mean, look, I like Lad. I think he's really steady. But to me, wide receiver 12, I think feels right. I mean, he wasn't really prone to a lot of boom games. I mean, he only cracked 100 yards receiving 3 times last season. And he also only had 8 red zone targets on the season. That's pretty low for a guy that's, I think wide receiver 12 is probably about as high as I'd be happy taking him.
So also I'd like to throw in he put up 200 yards in a playoff game. So talk about boom when you need him most, my boy comes through. But looking at the rookie numbers, excluding the playoffs, he put up over 1,100 yards. He had 20 fewer targets than Brian Thomas Jr., 41 fewer than Brian Powers, and almost 58 fewer than Malik Neighbors, which is crazy. And he only had 50 to 100 less yards despite that massive gap in targets. Like crazy.
Yeah, I mean, no, he was efficient for sure. And I do expect his role to grow and for him to kind of maybe get more of those red zone opportunities. I mean, coming in as a rookie, it's like you're not really built into the offense yet. I mean, they're working on it, but I could see him getting some more looks later on.
And so I guess the question is, because right now Malik Neighbors is overall, so this isn't just wide receiver, this is overall non super flex. The community is ranking Malik as number 3, Bowers at number 6, Brian Thomas Jr. at number 8, and Ladd at 22. So are these 3 overvalued, or is Ladd being undervalued? And that's why I think Ladd is being undervalued if these other 3 studs are all top 10 and did the same thing my man just did, but had a million times more targets, and he's attached to a Hall of Fame quarterback, Justin Herbert, who's 27 years old. Like, come on.
First off, I mean, calling Justin Herbert a Hall of Fame quarterback is a little. I don't know. I mean,
he's on track to become a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Does he have like a playoff?
Absolutely. It doesn't matter. He is a stud regular season.
I think he's
on track.
Fringe.
I would argue.
Fringe, and like with a good finish to his career, could get there. Fringe at best. I mean, if anything, I would say maybe Malik Neighbors at 3 is with whatever they're going to have at quarterback. You don't even know at the moment. I'd say that one seems a little egregious. I don't know if I would risk that much value in him. But I don't know. To me, I think he's valued. Wide receiver 12 feels good. I mean, maybe over like Marvin Harrison Jr. because he didn't really amount to much. Drake London, I'm kind of whatever on. I could see Ladd taking Ladd over those 2. That's about where I would put him at.
And I'm gonna keep on harping on efficiency because that's what Ladd's got. He put up 2.71 yards per round, only behind Puka, Rice, AJ Brown, Nico, and last year I wrote an article about rookie wide receiver threshold numbers and kind of where the cutoff was and how you could determine future predictors. And what I ended up finding was wide receivers who broke 1,000 yards their rookie season went on in their career to finish as wide receiver 1 almost 60% of the time, and wide receiver 2 almost 35% of the time, which means you're looking at about 94% hit rate for a stud wide receiver for the next 5, maybe 7 years, which is crazy. The only person that did not hit was your boy Michael Clayton. That's the only reason that's not 100% is because Michael Clayton from the Bucks, 1,000-yard rookie, bum hurt his knee, and then he was terrible after that. Yeah.
Why would you bring that up?
I'm just saying.
That just seems
not
unnecessary, man. Him and Cadillac Williams just hit. They both just like hit the scene hard as rookies and got me so excited as a Bucks fan, and then just derailed. It was brutal. It was a letdown.
Downhill after that. Yeah. So
those are the bad years, but we're in the good times now.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you got to forget all that, but you got to go through that trial and tribulation to get here with Baker, right? You got to go through that. But I'm just saying, lad's different. He's 23. He should be valued, I think, with all the other guys that we mentioned and talked about because of that quarterback and the upside. So I'm just saying, buy him. Won't be cheap, but get him on your team. You won't be upset about it.
All right, I think I'm up next for my second buy low. All right, maybe let's talk about Dak Prescott. I mean, I know last year was a crash and burn. I get that. But the disrespect that he's currently at QB 23 is wild. I mean, this is a guy who was 1 year removed from being quarterback 3 on the season.
Yeah.
I mean, he's 31 years old. He's a vet for sure, but he should still have a handful of productive years left. You know, I know he's been doing a lot of those that hip twerk thing he likes to do. Stay loose. Yep. Like I think he's gonna be good for another 4 to 5 years. In the 6 seasons where he's played at least 16 games, his worst finish is QB 11. So I think if he stays upright, keeps slinging the ball to CD, he's gonna crazy outproduce QB 23.
Yeah, I don't have any disagreement with you on this one. I am all on board about Dak being undervalued after that injury right now. I'm all about it.
I mean, they still got CD. The Cowboys also have the 12th pick in the draft, the upcoming draft. So I could really see them going for someone like Matthew Golden out of Texas, kind of give them a second option there. If they don't do a Gentry situation, who knows? But I'm looking for them. They didn't do much splashing in free agency as much as I would have liked.
Doing the old Jerry Jones. It's typical Jerry. But yeah, I mean, in any Superflex, I'm buying him without a doubt. Superflex league, heartbeat, give out the value that he's at right now. 1 QB, I think it depends on your team, but still, he could be a top 10 quarterback if you're, not deep at the QB position.
I mean, for how little he's being valued, I mean, the chance of him outperforming that is massive.
Yeah, and I mean, they have Brian Schottenheimer, right, the new head coach, who is there. I'm sure I'm almost certain I got his name right. But he's run the offense the last 2 years. And I looked at the data. He threw 38 times a game in 2023, which was number 1 in the league. And in 2024, he threw almost the same, 38 times. And he was number 3. So, they're going to pass the ball. They're going to pass.
Pass heavy attack right there, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm on board with that. Buy him. You won't be disappointed. He's crazy value right now. So I'm glad you picked him. Same page.
I think you got the last one. Hit us with it.
I do. Yeah. So this is going to be your guy from 2024. I wanted to go low. In this pick, so I'm going to go with Travis Etienne. That's my buy low candidate.
What a bust last year.
I know he was a big old red DUST from a 2024 standpoint. But I don't believe the former first-round running back has fallen off the face of this earth for no reason, right? Multiple 1,000-yard seasons. He was coming into his prime. He's clicking on all cylinders. But let me explain why, right? So through the first 4 weeks, I dug into it a little bit. For the first 4 weeks of the season, he was averaging 18 total attempts per game, rushing and receiving. This isn't amazing. It's serviceable, right? He averaged about 10 points per game during that time. But honestly, the Jags offense just looked terrible early in the year. Even with Brian Thomas Jr. there, he finished over those weeks was wide receiver 20. I don't think Trevor Lawrence broke 15 points during that time either. And then week 5 rolled around and ETN hurt his shoulder in practice. In week 6, he hurt his hamstring and missed time. So.
Yeah, I mean the reports on him all season. You check the news updates on him. There's always something going on. So yeah, definitely didn't seem like he was healthy by any means. But who really is in the middle of an NFL season? But yeah, the value you're getting for peanuts these days. So I don't mind it as like a wild card play. I mean, obviously he let me down a lot last year. But for peanuts, a roll of the dice can't hurt.
Yeah, I mean, I think low end 2nd round pick is what they're looking at. But even some people might just be done with him, right? And give up. You can give him a 3rd, and they're going to be like, hey, I'll take it. And obviously, the head coach, is an upgrade, and hopefully he'll get something going. They like using running backs, even though they're pass heavy. But
Liam Cohen did, and he just had a press conference the other day, and he was talking about how he's like, how do you make Trevor Lawrence better? He's like, well, best way to make Trevor Lawrence better is have a better run game. Obviously, like every coach is going to say that. Everyone who wouldn't want a great run game. But Liam Cohen did have, the Bucs run game was crazy improved last year. We also did have Bucky looking awesome. It's hard to say if it was Bucky or if it was Cohen. Could be a little bit of both. But I'd say it is optimistic, assuming they didn't really bring in anybody else, or don't draft anybody else. I think Cohen's going to try to make it work.
Yeah, and even though I started with don't draft running backs in the NFL Dynasty season, so this take is let's wait until the NFL draft, and then you can kind of get closer to what you want to do. But the value's cheap, so I'd still, even risk it for a 3rd. It's like a 10% hit rate or something in that round. So
yeah, I'm into this take.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's going to do it for today. If you like what you heard, give us a like and subscribe. If not, just thanks for hanging out with us. We appreciate it. As always, go steal a championship, and we'll see y'all later.
Peace.